My daughter-in-law got a promotion. She took the whole family out to a restaurant to celebrate, but she didn't invite me. Hours later, I received her text message. Remember to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't let them go to waste. I simply replied, okay. Then, I quietly packed my bags and left. That night, when they returned, laughing and a little drunk from the celebration, they opened the door, and what they saw inside left them completely frozen. It was 9:30 in the evening when my phone vibrated on the kitchen table. I was sitting there, in front of a bowl of instant ramen that I didn't even feel like eating. The house smelled of floor cleaner and loneliness. I had spent the entire afternoon cleaning every corner, ironing my son Julian's shirts, folding my grandchildren's clothes. My hands still smelled like bleach. I picked up the phone, thinking maybe it was my son saying they were on their way, that there was a place for me at that table where they were celebrating. But no, it was a message from Victoria, my daughter-in-law. Remember to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't let them go to waste. I read those words once, twice, 3 times. I felt something inside my chest crack in silence, like when a porcelain cup falls to the floor but makes no sound until it's already broken. It wasn't just the message. It was the tone, the hidden mockery behind each word. It was knowing that while I ate alone in this house I helped pay for, they were toasting with glasses of wine at the Summit Grill, that place where the cheapest dish costs $45. I opened Instagram. I shouldn't have, but I did. There were the photos. My son in his white shirt that I had ironed myself that morning. Victoria in a tight red dress, smiling as if she owned the world. My grandchildren eating fried shrimp while making funny faces at the camera. My sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, even Victoria's mother was there. Everyone but me. The caption read, "Celebrating my queen's promotion. Regional manager at 34 years old. Here's to the women who never stop climbing." 237 likes in 20 minutes. I closed the app. I left the phone on the table. I looked at my cooling soup. And then, something strange happened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. A cold calm washed over me completely, as if my body knew something my mind was still processing. I got up slowly. I walked to my room. And I opened the closet. Because what they didn't know, what no one at that table full of laughter and toasts could imagine, is that I had been preparing for this moment for months. And this time, I wasn't going to heat up their leftovers. This time, I was going to disappear. And when they came back that night, drunk on wine and arrogance, what they would find behind that door would make them tremble. But for you to understand why I made that decision, I need to tell you how I got here. How a 68-year-old woman who gave everything for her family ended up being treated like the maid who doesn't get paid. And if you want to know how this story ends, subscribe to the channel because what comes next will change the way you see family relationships forever. Let me take you back 3 years, to the day I lost everything and gave away what I had left, not knowing I was signing my own sentence. 3 years and 4 months ago, I buried my husband, Arthur, pancreatic cancer. It took him in 6 months, so fast I barely had time to say goodbye. I was left alone in our house, a charming craftsman in a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets, the house where we raised Julian, where we celebrated every birthday, every Christmas. But after the funeral, the silence became unbearable. Every corner screamed his absence. Julian came to visit me 2 weeks later. He had Victoria on his arm, and that smile I knew since he was a boy, the smile he used when he wanted to ask me for something. "Mom," he said while sipping coffee in the kitchen, "Victoria and I are looking for a house. We want something bigger for the kids, but the prices are impossible." Victoria nodded, caressing her mug with those perfectly painted coral nails. "The down payment for the house we want is $75,000. We've been saving for a year, but we only have half." They didn't need to say more. "How much do you need?" I asked. Julian looked down. "If you sold this house, Mom, you could come live with us. You wouldn't be alone. The kids adore you. That way we all win." Victoria smiled. "It would be perfect, Eleanor. You help us with the kids. We take care of you. Like a real family." That word, family. I signed the sale papers 3 weeks later. The Craftsman house, with its high ceilings and 42 years of memories, sold for $450,000. I gave Julian $75,000 for the down payment. The rest I put in a savings account, thinking it was my safety net. What I didn't do, and this is what weighs on me most to this day, was put my name on the deed of the new house. Julian told me it wasn't necessary, that the house belonged to all of us. Why complicate the paperwork? And I, like a fool, trusted him. The house was in a gated community in the suburbs, with a security booth at the entrance. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, a 2-car garage. Nice, modern, cold. The first few months were tolerable. I would get up at 5 in the morning. I'd make the coffee just how Julian likes it, strong with a hint of cinnamon. I'd make breakfast, pancakes, scrambled eggs with bacon. I'd wake my grandchildren, Leo, who was 9, and Mia, who was 6. I'd comb their hair, pack their lunches, and see them off at the school bus stop. Victoria would rush out at 7:30, always impeccable in her tailored suits and her French perfume, which cost $200 a bottle. She wouldn't even look at me on her way out. Julian would leave half an hour later. Sometimes he'd give me a kiss on the forehead. Sometimes he'd just say, "Thanks, Mom," without looking at me. And I would stay there, clearing plates, washing clothes, mopping floors that never seemed clean enough for Victoria. Because every afternoon when she returned, she would inspect. She'd run her finger over the shelves looking for dust. She'd open the refrigerator and frown if something wasn't in its exact place. She'd check the bathrooms as if she were a health inspector. "Eleanor, the mirrors have spots." "Eleanor, Leo's clothes aren't ironed properly." "Eleanor, why did you use so much detergent? It's more expensive." Never Eleanor. Never Mrs. Eleanor, as my friends called me. Just mother-in-law, as if it were a job title, not a name. The children loved me. That was real. Leo would hug me when he got home from school. Mia would fall asleep on my lap while I read her stories. But every time Victoria saw us together, her face would harden. One day, Mia told me, "Grandma, I love you more than Mommy," right in front of Victoria. That night, I heard shouting from their bedroom. "Your mother is spoiling my children, Julian. She gives them everything they ask for. She coddles them, fills their heads with nonsense. She's my mom, Victoria. Leave her alone. Your mom? Or the maid who doesn't pay rent?" Silence. I waited for Julian to defend me, to say something, anything. But he didn't. And right there, I knew I had crossed an invisible line. I was no longer the mother-in-law who helped. I was the burden they tolerated. The months passed, and the humiliations became more subtle but more constant. Victoria would organize family dinners and forget to tell me until the last minute. Her friends would come over and she'd introduce me as Julian's mom who helps us with the house, never as part of the family. They stopped including me in photos. At Christmas, when they took the family picture in front of the tree, Victoria asked me to take it. "You have a steadier hand, Eleanor." I stood behind the camera while they smiled like a Christmas card. That photo ended up framed in the living room. I don't appear anywhere in this house. It's as if I'm a ghost. And the worst part is, I started to feel that way, invisible, disposable, as if my only value was to keep the house running while they lived their perfect lives. But all that humiliation accumulated over 3 years, was nothing compared to what would happen that March night, the night I received that message about the leftovers in the fridge, because that night, something inside me woke up, and there was no turning back. It all started that Thursday morning, when Victoria came down the stairs, practically floating. She was wearing her pearl gray suit, the one she reserved for important meetings, and a smile that lit up her entire face. "I got it," she shouted as Julian came down behind her, tying his tie. "What happened, Mommy?" Mia asked from the table, her mouth full of pancakes. "I got promoted, my love. Your mommy is the new regional director of operations, the youngest in the company's history." Julian hugged her and lifted her off the ground. "I knew you'd do it. I knew that position was yours. I was by the stove, flipping pancakes." "Congratulations, Victoria," I said sincerely, because no matter how tense things were, I didn't wish her ill. She barely glanced at me. "Thanks," and she continued hugging Julian. "We have to celebrate," my son said, in a big way, like my wife deserves. "Should we go to the Summit Grill?" Victoria suggested, her eyes sparkling. "That restaurant I told you about, the the one with the view of the city skyline. Whatever it is, no expense spared today. Leo raised his hand like in school. Am I going too? Of course, champ. The whole family. My heart gave a little leap. The whole family. That included me, right? I put the pancakes on the table and wiped my hands on my apron. What time should I make the reservation for? I asked, trying to sound casual. Victoria looked at me as if she had just realized I was still there. Reserve what? The table, for the family dinner. There was an uncomfortable silence. Julian cleared his throat. Victoria exchanged a look with him, one of those looks that speak without words. Oh no, Eleanor, Victoria said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It's an intimate dinner, you know, just us. The kids, my mom who's coming in from out of state. Immediate family. Immediate family. Those words stabbed my chest like shards of glass. I understand, I said, and went back to the stove, even though there was nothing left to flip. Besides, Victoria continued, spreading butter on her toast, someone has to stay with the house, right? We can't just leave it empty. And you cook so well, I'm sure you'll make yourself something delicious. Julian said nothing. My son, the boy I raised, whom I defended from every blow life threw at him, sat in silence, staring at his plate of eggs. They all left at 11 in the morning. Victoria changed her outfit 3 times. The kids were excited, dressed in their Sunday best. Julian gave me a quick kiss on the forehead, so automatic he didn't even look me in the eye. Don't wait up for us, Mom. We're going to be late. And they left. The house fell silent, a silence so heavy it was hard to breathe. I walked through the living room, through the dining room with its glass table that I cleaned every day, through the kitchen where I spent hours preparing meals they barely thanked me for. Everything was spotless, everything was in order, and I was completely alone. I made myself a cup of instant ramen, the kind they sell in packs of 3 for $2. I sat at the kitchen table, not in the dining room. The help doesn't eat in the dining room, and that's what I was now, right? The help. But the help who paid $75,000 for the privilege of working for free. At 7 in the evening, I opened Instagram. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I needed to confirm what I already knew. Maybe I'm a masochist. There they were. The first photo. Victoria, radiant in her red dress, holding a glass of sparkling wine. Thanks to everyone for joining me on this special day. The second photo. My grandchildren with huge plates of fried shrimp and French fries. Leo had sauce on his chin. Mia was making a victory sign with her fingers. The third photo. The whole table. I counted 9 people. Julian, Victoria, the kids, Victoria's mom, her sister, her brother-in-law, and 2 other people I didn't recognize. Friends, probably. 9 people celebrating, laughing, toasting, while I was eating instant ramen in a kitchen I helped pay for. I looked at the comments. 184 in the first hour. Congratulations, Queen. You deserve it. Cheers to successful women. What a beautiful family. No one asked about me. No one noticed someone was missing, because I had already been invisible for a long time. I closed the app, washed my bowl, dried the table, and then my phone vibrated. Victoria's message. Remember to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't let them go to waste. I read those words and something inside me died, but at the same time, something else woke up. I opened the refrigerator. There they were. A half-eaten rotisserie chicken from the day before yesterday, rice from Monday, vegetables that I had bought and cooked. Leftovers. That's what I deserved, according to them. Their leftovers. Their contempt wrapped in polite words. I closed the refrigerator. I took a deep breath and wrote my reply. Okay, 2 letters. Nothing more. But in those 2 letters was a decision that had been taking shape in my head for months. Since the first time Victoria treated me like a servant. Since Julian stopped defending me. Since I understood that I had given my entire life for a family that no longer saw me as part of it. I went up to my room, opened the closet, and took out the suitcase. Because what they didn't know, what they would never imagine while they toasted with $100 bottles of wine, is that I had been preparing for this moment for 6 months. 6 months of saving documents, recording conversations, taking photographs, building a case. Because it turns out that this invisible mother-in-law, this unpaid servant, this 68-year-old woman they treated like a dish rag, held the deed to the house. and she had never, ever, transferred it to Julian's name. This house was mine. Legally, completely, mine. And they were about to find out in the worst way possible. I took the large suitcase out of the closet, the one Arthur and I used for our last trip to Santa Fe. It still had the hotel tag stuck to the corner. I put it on the bed and began to fill it with my clothes, my shoes, the photographs of my husband that I kept on the nightstand. But before folding the first blouse, I stopped. Because this couldn't just be a tantrum. It couldn't be a dramatic exit that would end with me begging to come back in a week. This had to be final, calculated, just. I walked to the back of the closet and moved the shoeboxes I never use. Behind them, wrapped in a plastic bag, was my old sewing box, the one my mother gave me when I got married. I opened it and took out what I had hidden there for months. A hardcover, spiral-bound notebook. In that notebook was everything. Every dollar I invested in this house from the day we moved in. Every receipt, every proof of payment. 3 years of my life documented in the shaky handwriting of a woman who sensed she would one day need it. I turned the pages slowly. August 2022. Down payment for the house, $75,000. September 2022. New refrigerator, $1,890. Washer and dryer, $2,450. October 2022. Living room set. Because Victoria said the one they brought from their apartment was too old, $3,200. November 2022. Repair of the burst pipe, $870. The list went on and on and on. 55-inch television for the living room, $2,200. New mattresses for the bedrooms, $3,800. The renovation of the master bathroom that Victoria urgently wanted, $6,500. And then there were the monthly expenses. Because Julian only paid $700 a month. That's what he could afford on his salary. But the actual mortgage was $2,200 a month. Who put in the other $1,500? I did. Every month. Without fail. For 3 years. From my widow's pension of $2,500 a month, I contributed $1,500 to maintain the house where I lived as a servant. I did the math quickly on the last page of my notebook. Down payment and initial furniture. $94,730. Monthly mortgage contributions. 36 months times $1,500. $54,000. Repairs, improvements, and extra expenses. $18,950. Total invested, $167,680. $167,680. Almost everything I received from the sale of my house. Everything Arthur and I built over 42 years of marriage. Invested in a house where they treated me worse than a stranger. But the most important thing, what gave me the real power, was hidden at the bottom of the sewing box. I reached in and pulled out a yellowish manila envelope. Inside was the original deed to the house. I opened it with trembling hands. There it was, in the notary's script, clear as day. Property located at 847 Jurist Circuit, Northwood Estates. Owner, Eleanor Mendoza. My name, only my name. When we bought the house, the lawyer explained that since I put down the entire down payment, it was safest to put everything in my name first. Later, you can do the transfer whenever you want, Mrs. Mendoza, he told me. But this way, you're protected if anything happens. Julian agreed. It's better this way, Mom. Safer for you. And then we never did the transfer. He would ask me about it occasionally in the first few months. We need to go to the lawyer's office, Mom, to change the deed. But there was always something more urgent. We always put it off, until he stopped asking. And I, consciously or unconsciously, never reminded him. Now I understood why. Some part of me, the part that survived 42 years of marriage, that raised a son while Arthur worked 12-hour days, that part knew I needed protection. That part saved me. I put the deed back in the envelope. But I didn't put it in the suitcase yet. First, I took out my phone and dialed a number I had saved for months. Hello? A young professional voice answered. Kate, It's your Aunt Eleanor. Aunt Eleanor, what a surprise. How are you? Kate was my niece, my younger sister's daughter, a lawyer specializing in family law. 38 years old, 2 kids, a recent divorce that made her fierce in the courtroom. I need your help, I said. It's urgent. Can you come over early tomorrow? There was a pause. Aunt Eleanor, are you okay? Your voice sounds strange. I'm perfect. For the first time in 3 years, I'm perfect. But I need your help with a legal matter. About my house. Your house? I thought you lived with Julian and Victoria. Exactly. That's why I'm calling. I heard Kate grab a pen and paper. Tell me everything. I explained the situation in 15 minutes. The down payment, the deed, the payments, the humiliation, the message about the leftovers. When I finished, Kate let out a low whistle. Aunt Eleanor, are you telling me that house is completely in your name and they don't know it? That's right. And you have proof of everything you've invested? Every receipt, every transfer, everything. Oh my God, I heard Kate typing on her computer. Aunt Eleanor, this is legal gold. You have a solid case, rock solid. What can I do? Whatever you want. You can evict them. You can charge them retroactive rent. You can sell the house. Legally, they are your tenants without a lease. They have no rights to the property. I felt a smile form on my face. Not a happy smile, a smile of justice. Tomorrow at 8 in the morning, I'll be at your office. I'll be waiting, Aunt Eleanor, and bring all the papers, deeds, receipts, proof, everything. I hung up and took a deep breath. Then I dialed another number. Hello? A male voice answered, hoarse with sleep. Mr. Peterson, it's Eleanor Mendoza. I'm sorry to call so late. Mrs. Eleanor, what happened? Are you all right? Mr. Peterson was our family lawyer, a notary for 30 years. He was the one who handled Arthur's will and the deed for this house. I need you to review some documents tomorrow about the house in Northwood. Did something happen? Let's just say I'm going to assert my rights. I heard Mr. Peterson shift in his chair. Are Julian and his wife giving you trouble? You could say that. Oh, Mrs. Eleanor, I warned you not to transfer the house until you were sure. I know, Mr. Peterson. And you were right. That's why I'm calling. I need your advice. Tomorrow at 10 in my office. And bring everything. I'll be there. I hung up and dialed the last number. This one was the hardest. Eleanor? My friend Carol answered. What are you doing up at this hour? Carol and I had known each other for 40 years. We were neighbors in my old neighborhood. Our sons grew up together. She was widowed 2 years before I was. Carol, is the room you were going to rent still available? The one upstairs? Yes. Why? Can I move in tomorrow? Silence. What happened, honey? And then, for the first time all night, my voice broke. I can't do it anymore, Carol. I can't keep being invisible in my own house. You come tomorrow, Carol said in a firm voice. Whenever you need, I'll be waiting for you. I hung up the phone. And then, yes, I allowed myself to cry, but I didn't cry from sadness. I cried from relief. Because after 3 years of humiliation, I was finally going to get my dignity back. And they, all of them toasting with expensive wines while I ate leftovers, were about to learn the hardest lesson of their lives. It was 10:15 at night. I still had time. According to the Instagram stories, they were on dessert. A chocolate lava cake with raspberries that cost $20 a slice. I figured they'd get home after midnight, maybe 1 in the morning. I had 3 hours. Maybe 4 if they kept toasting. I went back to my room and really started packing, but not all my clothes. Just the essentials, what was truly mine. Because I had learned something important in these 3 years. They had gotten used to the idea that everything that was mine was also theirs. The quilt my mother made me, the silver locket Arthur bought me in Santa Fe, my wedding photographs, the books I had collected over the years, my Italian coffee maker I brought from my old house. Every object I put in the suitcase was a piece of my reclaimed identity. But there was something more important to pack. I opened my dresser drawer and took out a small digital recorder I had bought downtown 6 months ago. It cost $40 at an electronics store. The best investment I'd made in years. Because it turns out that when you become invisible, people talk in front of you as if you don't exist. I connected the recorder to my old laptop and started copying the files to a USB drive. File 1. October 15th, 2024. Victoria's voice on the phone with her sister. No, seriously, it's like having a free maid. She gets up early, cooks, cleans, watches the kids. And the best part is, I don't have to pay her or give her days off because she's family. Julian feels guilty sometimes, but I tell him she's better off here than alone in a nursing home. Her laugh. I remembered that laugh perfectly. File 2, November 23rd, 2024. A conversation between Victoria and Julian in the bedroom. I was cleaning the bathroom. Your mom is getting really annoying, Julian. She wants to have an opinion on everything. How I raise my kids. What I buy at the grocery store. She's my mom, Victoria. She just wants to help. Helping is getting in the way. And every time the kids listen to her more than me, my blood boils. Mia told me the other day that Grandma cooks better than I do. Do you realize what that means? Victoria, please. No, Julian, seriously. When she's gone, your dad left a good pension. She's served her purpose. Maybe it's time for her to find her own space. A small apartment or a nice retirement community. I can't just kick her out. She's my mother. You don't have to kick her out. Just suggest that she'd be happier somewhere else. For her own good. Silence from my son. And then, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. My son, my only son, was going to think about it. File 3, January 8th, 2025. Victoria with her friends in the living room, drinking wine while I prepared snacks in the kitchen. You guys have no idea how lucky I am. My mother-in-law does everything in the house, so I can focus on my career. That's why I got the promotion, because I don't have to worry about anything domestic. And she doesn't charge you? Charge me? She lives here for free, of course she doesn't charge. Besides, she sold her house and gave Julian the money. It's like her way of paying to live with us. More laughter. You're so smart. Take advantage of it while she can still work. When she gets too old, you'll figure something out. There were 17 files in total. 17 recordings of conversations where they treated me like a commodity, like a useful object they would eventually discard. I copied everything to the USB drive and saved another copy to my email, just in case. Then I took something else from the drawer. My old phone. The one I used before Julian gave me a new one so you can use WhatsApp, Mom. What he didn't know is that I never threw the old one away, and on that phone I had taken pictures. Pictures of the receipts Victoria threw in the trash. Screenshots of her social media posts, where she showed off the house, the furniture, the renovations. Always with the hashtag, my home, personal achievements, my home, my achievements. Never our home. Never thanks to the family. I copied all the photos to the same USB drive. It was 11:15. Instagram showed they were still at the restaurant. Now they were having coffee and cognac. I still had time. I went downstairs quietly. The house was in shadows, only the hallway light was on. I walked through the living room. I stopped in front of each piece of furniture I had bought. The 3-seater sofa, $3,200. The glass coffee table, $850. The wooden bookshelf where Victoria put her decorative plants, $1,200. But I wasn't going to take any of it. It wasn't my style. I wasn't going to empty the house like a thief in the night. I was only going to take what was indisputably mine. My clothes, my memories, my dignity, and the deed. I went back upstairs and finished closing the suitcase. It was heavy, but I could manage. I sat on the edge of the bed and took out a sheet of paper and a pen. I had to leave them something. I couldn't just disappear without a word. But I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me beg or explain. I wrote in clear handwriting, Julian, for 3 years I lived in this house as an invisible servant. I cooked, I cleaned, I cared for your children, I paid bills, and I swallowed humiliations in silence. Tonight, while you celebrated Victoria's promotion and sent me a text about heating up leftovers, I made a decision. I will no longer be the ghost of this family. You will find documents on your nightstand. Read them carefully. We will see each other soon with lawyers present. I have loved you my whole life, but love does not mean letting you walk all over me. Mom. I folded the letter and put it on his pillow, on his side of the bed. Then I took out the manila envelope with the deed. Inside, I placed a yellow sticky note. This house is in my name. It always was. And I have proof of every dollar I invested in it. $167,680 to be exact. See you at the lawyer's office. I left the envelope on Julian's nightstand, clearly visible. I checked my phone. 11:28 at night. The last story showed they were asking for the check. It was time to go. I carried the suitcase down carefully. My 68-year-old legs protested, but they held up. At the front door, I paused. I took one last look at this house I helped build. At the floors I mopped 1,000 times. At the walls I painted when we moved in. At the kitchen where I prepared thousands of meals that no one thanked me for. I didn't feel sadness. I felt freedom. I locked the door. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't leave the key in the deadbolt on the inside. I took it with me. After all, it was my house. I called an Uber from the corner. The driver, a man in his 50s, helped me with the suitcase. "Long trip, ma'am?" he asked as he pulled away. I looked out the window at the house receding into the darkness. "No," I replied. "It's a journey back. Back to myself." As the car moved through the empty suburban streets, I imagined the scene to come. Julian, Victoria, the kids, all entering the house, their cheeks flushed from wine and laughter, turning on the lights, calling for me to tell them about the wonderful dinner they had, and finding silence. Going upstairs, confused, opening my bedroom door, empty, entering their bedroom, seeing the envelope, reading the letter, and understanding everything. I smiled in the darkness of the car. Tonight, they would return laughing to a house they thought was theirs, and I would sleep peacefully for the first time in 3 years. At my friend Carol's house, knowing that I had finally found my voice, tomorrow, the legal war would begin. But tonight was just for me, to celebrate that the invisible servant had woken up, and she had fangs. I wasn't there when they arrived, but Leo told me everything 3 days later, when he came looking for me, crying, at Carol's house. Let me reconstruct that night as my grandson narrated it to me, with tears streaming down his cheeks. It was 1:23 in the morning when Julian's car entered the gated community. The security guard waved them through. The guard later told me they were laughing loudly, with music blasting. Victoria was leaning on Julian's shoulder. She had had 3 glasses of red wine, 2 of champagne, and a shot of tequila, with which they made a final toast. Julian wasn't sober either. He'd had 2 double whiskeys and several beers. The kids were asleep in the back seat. They parked the car. Victoria almost tripped getting out, laughing at her high heels. Julian caught her by the waist, playing around, kissing her neck. "Regional director," he whispered. "My wife, the director. And you, husband of the year?" She replied, hanging on his arm. They walked up the porch steps. Julian fumbled for the keys in his pocket, swaying a little. "Shh," Victoria said between laughs. "Don't wake up your mom." "Let her sleep," Julian replied. "She deserves it after looking after the house all night." They opened the door. Everything was dark. Only the upstairs hallway light was on, just as I always left it so they wouldn't trip. "Mom?" Julian called as he entered. His voice was slurred. Silence. Victoria turned on the living room light, and then they saw it. The living room was different. Not empty, but different. The Persian rug I had brought from my old house was gone. The one my mother bought on a trip to Santa Fe 50 years ago. The embroidered cushions on the sofa were missing. The ones I had embroidered myself over months. The paintings on the walls were gone. My paintings. Landscapes of New Mexico that Arthur gave me on our anniversaries. "What?" Victoria frowned. "Did your mom move things around?" Julian walked to the kitchen. He flicked on the light. The Italian coffee maker was gone. The ceramic mugs I collected, also gone. The apron that always hung on the hook next to the fridge had disappeared. "Mom," he called, louder this time. "Where are you?" They went upstairs. Leo told me that's when the alcohol started to wear off. My door was ajar. Julian pushed it open. He turned on the light. The bed was made. Perfectly made. just as I always left it, but empty. The closet was open, empty of my clothes. Only the hangers remained. The nightstand was bare of my books, my glasses, my rosary, as if I had never existed in that room. "What the hell?" Victoria muttered behind him. Julian ran to the bathroom. My toothbrush wasn't there. My face cream, my comb, my cheap rose-scented perfume, all gone. He went back to the room. And that's when he saw it. Their bed. On his pillow, a folded letter. He grabbed it with trembling hands. He unfolded it. Victoria read over his shoulder. Leo told me his father's face changed as he read. From confusion to disbelief. From disbelief to horror. "What does it say?" Victoria asked. "Is she gone? Did your mom leave?" But Julian didn't answer. He had seen the manila envelope on his nightstand. He opened it with clumsy fingers. He pulled out the deed to the house, and he read the name written there in official notary script. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no. What is it?" Victoria snatched the papers from him. Her eyes scanned the document. Once. Twice. And then she turned pale. This can't be real. "The house is in her name," Julian said in a hollow voice. "The whole house. It was always in her name. But you paid the down payment. You told me that." "She paid the down payment." Julian dropped onto the bed. "She sold her house. $75,000. I didn't have anything. It all came from her." Victoria took the yellow sticky note that was attached to the deed. $167,680 to be exact. 167,000? Victoria swayed. "Are you telling me your mom invested over $150,000 in this house? And we never did the transfer?" "Oh my God, Victoria. We never transferred the title." The silence that followed was deafening. Leo told me he woke up to shouting. He came downstairs, rubbing his eyes, and found his parents in the living room, arguing. His mom was screaming. His dad had his head in his hands. This can't be happening. Victoria was pacing like a caged animal. "We lived here for 3 years. 3 years. This is my house. It's her house," Julian said in a dead voice. "Legally, it was always her house. Then you demand she give it to you. She's your mother. She has an obligation to." "An obligation?" Julian looked up. His eyes were red. "Like the obligation we had to treat her with respect? To not exclude her from dinner tonight?" Victoria fell silent. "We left her alone," Julian continued, his voice breaking. "In her own house. We left her to eat leftovers while we spent $200 on wine. Julian, you sent her that message, that damned message about heating up leftovers from the fridge." Victoria's mouth opened. She closed it. She turned even paler. It wasn't with bad intentions. It was just." "What? A joke? Was humiliating her funny to you?" "For the first time in 3 years, my son defended my honor. But it was too late." Leo was crying on the stairs, listening to everything. Mia woke up and started calling for her grandma. "Where's Grandma? I want my grandma." Julian dialed my number. Once. Twice. 5 times. 10 times. I had silenced his contact. He sent messages. "Mom, please, answer. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Mom, we can fix this, please. Mom, please don't do this." None received a reply. Because at that moment, I was at Carol's house, drinking chamomile tea with honey, wrapped in a clean blanket that smelled of fabric softener, sleeping the deepest and most peaceful sleep I had had in 3 years. Victoria tried one last card that night. "Let's call a lawyer tomorrow. I'm sure we can challenge this deed. We've lived here for 3 years. That gives us rights? Adverse possession or something." Julian looked at her with a mixture of disgust and disappointment. "You still don't get it. She has everything documented. Every dollar, every receipt. And, worse," he ran his hands over his face. "She's right. We treated her like garbage. I let you treat her like garbage." He stood up and walked to the kids' room. Leo told me his dad hugged him that night and cried. He cried like Leo hadn't seen him cry since Grandpa Arthur died. "I messed everything up," he told his 9-year-old son. I lost Grandma because I was an idiot. That night, none of them slept in the house they thought was theirs, the house that was always mine. And, while they walked through the rooms, empty of my things, trying to understand how everything fell apart in a single night, I slept in peace. Because sometimes silence is the most powerful scream, and sometimes disappearing is the only way to finally be seen. I woke up at 7 in the morning at Carol's house. Natural light streamed through the window. Birds were singing outside. The smell of freshly brewed coffee wafted up from the kitchen. It had been 3 years since I had woken up without a knot in my stomach. I stretched in bed. No one was waiting for me downstairs to demand breakfast. No one would check if I had cleaned the bathroom properly. No one would give me orders disguised as suggestions. I was free. My phone had 32 notifications, 23 missed calls from Julian, 15 WhatsApp messages, 4 from Victoria, 2 from unknown numbers that were probably meddling relatives who had already heard about the scandal. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I opened Facebook, that social network I rarely used, which was full of old contacts, friends from my book club, neighbors from my old town, distant cousins, high school classmates I found years ago. 437 friends who barely saw my posts because I never posted anything, until today. I wrote with trembling fingers. After 3 years of caring for a family that made me invisible, I've learned that self-love isn't selfishness. It's survival. I hit post and closed the app. I went down for breakfast. Carol was waiting for me with pancakes, crispy bacon, and coffee from a pot with a cinnamon stick in it. My favorite breakfast. How did you sleep? She asked, pouring me orange juice. Like I haven't slept in years. And what's next? Now, I said, cutting a piece of pancake, comes the legal part. At 8 o'clock sharp, I was at Kate's office. My niece greeted me with a strong hug and a cup of coffee. Aunt Eleanor, you're a legend. I couldn't sleep last night thinking about your case. Did you bring everything? I took the manila envelope with the deed, the notebook with the receipts, and the USB drive with the recordings and photos from my bag. Kate spread everything out on her desk, like a detective building a case. This is it, Aunt Eleanor. This is perfect. You have impeccable documentation. She reviewed each paper with sparkling eyes. Deed in your name, proof of payment, bank transfers, even recordings. She plugged the USB into her computer and listened to a few snippets of the recordings. Her expression changed from professional to indignant. Like having a free maid. When the old woman dies, she's served her purpose. Kate clenched her fists. Aunt Eleanor, with this, we can do whatever you want. Immediate eviction, back payment of rent, compensation for emotional distress. Tell me what you need, and we'll do it. I need, I said slowly, for them to understand what they lost, for them to feel what I felt, and for them to learn that love isn't free when you confuse it with servitude. Kate nodded. Then, we're going to give them a lesson they won't forget. We spent 3 hours planning the strategy. Lawyers' letters, legal summons, property appraisals, calculations of back rent based on the area's market value. At 11 in the morning, Kate sent the first official document, a legal summons. Mrs. Eleanor Mendoza, the legal owner of the property located at 847 Jurist Circuit, requires the presence of Mr. Julian Torres and Mrs. Victoria Torres at the offices of Notary Hector Peterson on Monday, March 18th at 10 o'clock in the morning to resolve matters of property and occupancy. Attendance is mandatory. Please present official identification. The email was sent at 11:47 in the morning. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Finally, at noon, I checked the messages. From Julian. Mom, please. We need to talk. This is a misunderstanding. I didn't know the house was in your name. I never meant to disrespect you. The kids are asking for you. Leo is crying. Mia doesn't understand what happened. Mom, you're my mom. We can't end like this. From Victoria. Eleanor, I think this is all getting out of proportion. If last night's message upset you, I apologize. It was a misunderstanding. Julian is a wreck. The kids are too. Please reconsider. Can't we talk like civilized adults? I noticed the change in tone. From the bossy mother-in-law to the pleading mother-in-law. But I didn't reply. Instead, I opened Facebook. My post had 243 reactions, 189 comments. I started reading. Eleanor, I had no idea you were going through this. I always saw you as such a strong woman. I'm glad you found your voice. Rosa, my old neighbor. My friend, I've been living with my son and his wife for 2 years. I identify so much with this that you made me cry. Thank you for sharing, Patricia, from the book club. My mom went through something similar. She ended up in the hospital from stress. I wish she'd had your courage. A cousin I hadn't seen in years. This hit me hard. All older women deserve respect, not scraps. Guadalupe, a childhood friend. And so it went. Comment after comment from women sharing their own stories. Women living with their children, being treated as unpaid caregivers. Women who had lost their homes, their savings, their dignity. My small post had become a refuge for silenced voices. At 3 p.m, my sister called. Eleanor, what's going on? Julian called me crying. He says you left the house. I left my house, I corrected. Where I was living as a housekeeper. But he's your son, it's family. Family doesn't humiliate, Connie. Family doesn't make you feel invisible. Family doesn't send you mocking texts about heating up leftovers while they celebrate without you. Silence on the other end. They did that? I told her everything, every detail of the last 3 years. When I finished, my sister was crying. Forgive me, she said. I thought you were okay there. I thought it was a good arrangement. Everyone thought that. Because I smiled and didn't complain. But smiling doesn't mean you're happy. At 5 p.m, my brother-in-law, Connie's husband, called Julian. He didn't answer. He left him a message that Julian later showed me. Nephew, you made a grave mistake. Your mother is a woman of honor, and you treated her like a doormat. Now you pay the consequences and learn your lesson. The cracks were starting to show. The family, which always assumes the children are right, was beginning to question. At 7 p.m, Carol's phone rang. It was the next-door neighbor from my old house. Mrs. Eleanor, I just wanted to tell you that everyone in the neighborhood knows what happened. And you are absolutely right. I saw you every day taking out the trash, washing their car, buying their groceries, and they never even said thank you. How did they find out? Victoria went out this afternoon to the store. Her eyes were swollen from crying. And when Mrs. Carmichael asked her what was wrong, she exploded. She blamed you for everything, said you were ungrateful, that you left them on the street, that you were being selfish. I felt my blood boil. And what did the neighbors say? The woman laughed. Mrs. Carmichael told her that you were the owner of the house and had every right to leave whenever you wanted, that she would have done the same thing. And the other ladies said even worse things. Victoria ran back to the house. For the first time in 3 years, the neighbors who saw my suffering in silence raised their voices. That night, before sleeping, I checked Facebook again. My post had 420 reactions, 352 comments, and something more. 23 women had sent me private messages telling me their stories. Stories of mistreated mothers-in-law, of forgotten mothers, of exploited grandmothers. One woman wrote, "Thank you for speaking up. You gave me the courage to leave my daughter's house. I'm looking for an apartment tomorrow." Another said, "I've been taking care of my grandchildren for free for 5 years while my daughter-in-law goes out to have fun. After reading your story, tomorrow I'm telling her she can't abuse me anymore." My story, my pain, my broken silence was giving other women the strength to reclaim their voice. And that, more than any house or deed or money, filled my heart. Because it turns out my revenge wasn't just personal, it was collective. Julian wrote to me at 11 at night, "Mom, we got the summons from the lawyer. Please, don't do this, we're family." For the first time in 48 hours, I replied, "Family is what you build with respect, son, not with blood and obligations. See you on Monday at the notary's office." And I turned off my phone because the storm was just beginning. And I, for the first time in years, was the lightning. Sunday was the longest day of my life. Julian showed up at Carol's house at 9 a.m. He rang the doorbell insistently until my friend opened the door. You can't see her, Carol said firmly, blocking the entrance. She's my mother, ma'am, please. She's a woman who is finally resting after 3 years of exploitation, and I'm not going to let you disturb her. But I heard the voices from upstairs. I came down the stairs slowly. Julian looked terrible. Deep dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, the same wrinkled shirt from Friday. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 2 days. Mom, his voice broke when he saw me. Julian, please, we need to talk. Carol looked at me. I nodded. It's okay. Let him in. We sat in Carol's small living room. She stayed nearby, a silent guardian. Julian didn't know where to start. He ran his hands through his hair. He bit his lip. Finally, he spoke. I didn't know the house was in your name. I know. Why didn't you ever tell me? That question. That damned question. I did tell you, Julian. For the first 6 months, I reminded you every 2 weeks. Son, we need to go to the lawyers to do the transfer. Do you remember what you'd say? He looked down. Later, Mom. We're really busy with the move right now. Next week, Mom. There's no rush, Mom. We're family, after all. And then you stopped responding. And I stopped asking because a part of me, the wise part that survived 42 years of marriage, knew I would need that protection. Protection? From me? Your own son? From the situation I corrected. From becoming what I became. A housekeeper in my own home. Julian covered his face with his hands. I never wanted you to feel that way. But I did feel that way. Every day, for 3 years. Victoria, she can be tough sometimes, but she's not a bad person. Julian, do you know how much your mother invested in that house? He swallowed hard. The deed says $167,680. Exactly. Do you know where that money came from? From the sale of the old house. From the sale of the house where your father and I lived for 42 years, where we raised you, where we celebrated every one of your birthdays, where your father died in my bed, holding my hand. My voice broke. I sold my memories, Julian. I sold the last piece of your father I had left, and I did it for you. Julian started to cry. Thick tears fell onto his hands. Mom, do you know how much you paid of the mortgage? $700. And do you know what the actual monthly mortgage payment was? Silence. $2,200. I paid the other $1,500 every month from my $2,500 pension. Do you know what that means? He looked up, confused. It means that after paying my part of the house, I had $1,000 a month left for all my expenses. Clothes, medicine, transportation, anything personal. $1,000, while Victoria spent $200 on a single bottle of wine. Julian turned pale. I didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed I was okay, that I was happy, that taking care of your children and cleaning your house was enough purpose for me. Mom, I stood up and went to my purse. I took out the hardcover notebook. I placed it on the coffee table. Open it. With trembling hands, Julian opened the notebook and began to read. Page after page of taped receipts, proof of transfers, notes in my handwriting. Refrigerator, $1,800. Washer and dryer, $2,450. Living room set, $3,200. Master bath remodel, $6,500. Living room TV, $2,200. His face lost all color as he turned the pages. Oh my God. Keep reading. He reached the final pages, the monthly calculations, 36 months of contributions. The grand total. Over $167,000, he whispered. And that's not counting, I added coldly. The 3 meals a day I cooked, the cleaning, caring for your children, the laundry, the ironing. If we put a price on all that work at the rate of a live-in housekeeper, that's another $100,000, approximately. Julian closed the notebook. He was shaking. I don't have $167,000 to pay you. I know. I don't even have $20,000 in savings. I know that too. So what do you want? The house? Are you going to kick us out onto the street? And there it was. The $1,000,000 question. I took a deep breath. I want, I said slowly, for you to understand what you lost. It wasn't just a house. It wasn't just furniture or money. You lost your mother. You lost me. I haven't lost you. You're right here. When was the last time you asked me how I was? How I slept? If my back hurt from so much cleaning? If I missed your father? If I felt lonely? Silence. When was the last time you hugged me when it wasn't just in passing? That you sat down with me for coffee? That you really looked me in the eyes? More silence. I became a service, Julian, not your mother, and you let it happen. I'm sorry, he sobbed. I'm so sorry. I know, but sorry doesn't give me back 3 years of my life. It doesn't give me back my dignity. I then took the USB drive from my pocket. I placed it on the table next to the notebook. What's that? He asked, wiping his tears. Listen to it when you get home. But do it alone. Victoria can't be there. Why? Because if you listen to it together, you'll end up getting divorced tonight. And even though your wife made my life impossible, your children don't deserve a broken home. Julian picked up the USB drive as if it were a bomb. Mom, what's on here? The truth. 17 recordings of conversations where Victoria talks about me when she thinks I'm not listening. Where she plans how to get rid of me. Where she makes fun of me with her friends. I saw his face crumble. Listen to it. All of it. And then decide if you want us to meet at the lawyer's office tomorrow with your wife present, or if you'd rather we talk first, just the two of us. He stood up, swaying a little. He grabbed the USB drive and the notebook. Mom, Monday at 10 o'clock sharp, Julian. At Mr. Peterson's office, you decide who comes with you. He walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the knob. Is there anything I can do to fix this? Yes, I said. You can learn, you can change, and you can teach your children that elderly people are not furniture, that your mother was not a servant, that love and respect are not optional in a family. He left without another word. Carol sat next to me and held me while I cried. Did you do the right thing? She asked softly. I don't know, but I did what was necessary. That afternoon, Leo came to Carol's house alone. He rang the doorbell, and when I opened it, he threw himself into my arms, crying. Grandma, I miss you so much. I held him tight, breathing in the smell of his hair. My grandson. My darling grandson, who was not to blame for any of this. I miss you too, my love. Why did you leave? I knelt down to be at his eye level. Because sometimes, when someone treats you badly for a long time, you have to walk away to remind them that you're important. But we didn't treat you badly. I know, sweetie, you love me, but your parents forgot how to treat me well. Dad is really sad and Mom won't stop crying. I know. Are you coming back? I looked into his eyes, those 9-year-old eyes full of confusion and innocence. I don't know, Leo, but what I do know is that I love you and that none of this is your fault. Do you understand? He nodded, wiping his tears with the cuff of his sweater. We spent 2 hours together. We ate cookies. I read him a story. We played dominoes like we used to. When Julian came to pick him up, my son's face was devastated. Did you listen to it? I asked from the doorway. He nodded without speaking. All of it? He nodded again. Then I'll see you tomorrow. I didn't sleep well that night because I knew the next day would define everything. Because tomorrow, in that lawyer's office, it wouldn't just be the fate of a house being decided. It would be decided if a broken family could heal, or if some fractures are too deep to be repaired. On Monday at 9:30 in the morning, I arrived at Mr. Peterson's office. Kate accompanied me, her leather briefcase full of documents. She looked like a lawyer from a movie. Black tailored suit, heels, hair up in a perfect bun. Ready, Aunt Eleanor? She asked as we climbed the stairs of the old colonial building downtown. Ready. Mr. Peterson received us in his office with high ceilings and antique mahogany furniture. It smelled of old books and coffee. Mrs. Eleanor, he greeted me with a fatherly hug. I'm so sorry things came to this. Me too. But here we are. We sat down. The clock read 9:47. At 9:52, we heard footsteps on the stairs. The door opened. Julian entered first. He was wearing a gray suit, dark tie, as if he were going to a funeral. His eyes were sunken, red from lack of sleep, and behind him walked Victoria. But not the confident, arrogant Victoria of before. This Victoria was wearing a conservative navy blue dress, no cleavage, no stilettos, flat shoes, little makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked like a scolded child. She saw me, and immediately looked away. Interesting. "Good morning," Julian said in a hoarse voice. "Good morning," I replied. They sat on the other side of the table, with Mr. Peterson at the head. Kate took documents out of her briefcase with precise, professional movements. "All right, Mr. Peterson," Peterson began, putting on his glasses. "We are here to resolve a situation of property and occupancy. Mrs. Eleanor is the legal owner of the property located at—" "We know," Victoria interrupted. Her voice was tense. "We already know everything." Kate raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you do? Do you know that my client has invested $167,680 in that property?" "Yes." "And that you, technically, have been living there without a lease agreement for 3 years?" Victoria clenched her fists in her lap. "Yes." "And that my client has the legal right to request immediate eviction, collect back rent, and sue for emotional distress?" At that, Victoria looked up. Her eyes were shining with unshed tears. "Yes, we know. We know everything." The silence that followed was thick. Julian cleared his throat. "Mom, I listened to the recordings." "All of them?" "All of them." His voice broke. "All 17. It took me 4 hours, and each one destroyed me a little more." Victoria closed her eyes. "I didn't know," Julian continued, looking directly at me. "I had no idea the things Victoria said about you behind my back." "Julian," Victoria murmured. "No," he cut her off, with a harshness I had never heard from him. "You're not going to minimize this. Not now." He turned back to me. "Mom, I heard how she talked about you with her friends, how she made fun of you, how she planned. God." He ran his hands over his face. "How she planned to convince me to send you to a nursing home when you were no longer useful." Victoria sobbed. "No, I didn't mean it. It was frustration." "It didn't mean." "You didn't mean it?" Julian's voice rose. "There's a recording from October where you tell your sister, and I quote, 'As soon as the old woman gets sick or starts with dementia, we'll send her to a cheap nursing home and keep the whole house for ourselves.' Did you not mean that either?" Victoria's face fell apart. Kate, smelling blood in the water, took out her laptop. "Would you like to listen to the recordings here, in the presence of the notary? I have certified copies." "No," Victoria said quickly. "That's not necessary." "Oh, I think it is," Kate said with a shark-like smile, "because my client not only has recordings, she also has witness statements from neighbors about the treatment she received, photographs of humiliating text messages, and a detailed record of psychological abuse and financial exploitation." Victoria turned completely pale. "Financial exploitation," Kate repeated, "is a crime, especially when it involves senior citizens. We could not only win the house, Mrs. Torres, we could take this to criminal court." "No!" Victoria shot up. "Please, that's not necessary. I'll do whatever it takes." "Sit down," Julian ordered. Victoria collapsed back into her chair, trembling. Mr. Peterson, who had observed everything in silence, spoke in a grave voice. "Mrs. Torres, I have known Mrs. Eleanor for 30 years. She is a woman of honor, and you, forgive my frankness, treated her like dirt." Victoria buried her face in her hands. "I know," she moaned. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "You're sorry?" I finally asked. My voice came out colder than I expected. "Are you sorry for humiliating me? Or are you sorry you got caught?" She looked up. Mascara was streaked down her cheeks. "I'm sorry for both." She took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry I was cruel. I'm sorry I treated you like a servant. And I'm sorry I was exposed like this, because it forced me to see the monster I became." That surprised me. I expected excuses, justifications, not self-criticism. "I," Victoria continued, wiping her tears with trembling hands, I grew up poor, Eleanor. Very poor. My mother worked as a maid her whole life. And when I managed to get out of that poverty, when I got my career and my position, I think I became the very thing I hated most. The employers who treated my mother badly. Her voice broke completely. And the worst part is I did it to you. The woman who helped us get a house, who took care of my children, who gave me a home. I was the worst version of myself with you. Julian looked at her with a mixture of pain and disappointment. Why? He asked. Why did you treat her like that if you knew how your own mother felt? Because I was scared, Victoria admitted between sobs. Scared the children would love you more. Scared Julian would see you were a better mother, a better cook, better at everything. Scared I would look like the useless daughter-in-law who needs her mother-in-law to keep her house running. She closed her eyes. So I treated you badly to feel superior, to remind myself that I was the owner of the house, the one in charge, the successful one. And you were just the mother-in-law who lived with us. She turned to me, her eyes red and swollen. But it wasn't my house. It was your house, the one you paid for, the one you built. And I was so stupid, so blind, so cruel that I didn't see it until you were gone. Kate looked at me, waiting for my signal. I knew she wanted to destroy Victoria legally. She had all the elements to do it. But something in Victoria's confession, in her broken voice, made me pause. Does your mother know how you treated me? I asked. Victoria shook her head. If she finds out, she'll disown me. She adores grandmothers. She always told me, treat your mother-in-law like you'd want your own mother to be treated. Wise advice, I said coldly. Too bad you didn't listen. I know. Mr. Peterson drummed his fingers on his desk. Well, we need to resolve the practical situation. Mrs. Eleanor has 3 legal options. Kate laid out documents on the table. Option 1. Immediate eviction. You have 30 days to vacate the property. Mrs. Eleanor gets her house back. Victoria turned pale. Option 2. Full buyout. You pay Mrs. Eleanor $167,680 within 90 days. The deed is transferred. The house becomes legally yours. Julian shook his head. We don't have that kind of money, not even close. Option 3, Kate said, and looked at me. This was my idea, the one we had discussed. Property division and cohabitation agreement. What does that mean? Julian asked. I took a deep breath. This was the moment. It means we legally divide the house. I retain 60% of the property. You get 40%, registered with the notary and legally binding. But, Victoria frowned, confused. 60-40? It means the house will still be more in my name than yours. But you'll have something. You won't be on the street. And where would you live? Julian asked. I'm not going back to that house, I said firmly. I'm staying where I am. But my 60% comes with conditions. Kate unfolded another document. Mrs. Eleanor will rent her percentage of the house to a family she personally selects. Tenants who will live in the house with you. You will share common spaces. They will pay a monthly rent of $950 that will go directly to Mrs. Eleanor. Victoria's eyes widened. You want us to live with strangers? I want you to learn what it feels like to share your space with someone you didn't choose, I replied. I want you to understand the discomfort, the lack of privacy, having to be nice to people who are in your home. Julian understood immediately. Like how you felt with us. Exactly. And the other condition? He asked. Family therapy, I said. Julian, you and I will go to therapy once a week for 6 months. I'll pay for the first 10 sessions. You pay for the rest. Without Victoria. Just the 2 of us. My son had tears in his eyes. You would do that? After everything? You'd still want to fix our relationship? You're my son, I said, my voice trembling. You made terrible mistakes, you failed me, but you're my son. And I'm not going to give up on you without trying. Julian stood up, walked around the table, and knelt in front of me. Forgive me, Mom. Please forgive me. I hugged him and cried with him. Victoria watched from her chair, destroyed. And me? She asked in a small voice. Is there anything I can do to earn your forgiveness? I looked at her directly. You can start by treating the tenants I'm putting in your house well. You can start by valuing what you have, and you can start by teaching my grandchildren that respect is not optional." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I will. I promise." Mr. Peterson prepared the documents. Property division, 60/40. A lease agreement for my portion. Protection clauses. All legal, all sealed. When we left that office 2 hours later, I was free. And them? They had a lesson that would last for years, because sometimes justice isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about making you live with the consequences of your actions, every single day. 2 weeks after that meeting at the lawyer's office, I was sitting in a coffee shop with Teresa Campos, a 52-year-old widowed elementary school teacher. She had 2 children, Michael, 14, and Andrea, 11. She had been looking for a place to live for 3 years after her husband died in a car accident, and she had to sell their condo to pay medical debts. "Mrs. Eleanor," Teresa said with hopeful eyes, "are you sure you want to rent part of your house to us? With 2 teenagers, we make a lot of noise." "I'm completely sure," I replied, sipping my coffee. "And please, call me Eleanor." I explained the situation. The whole thing. I didn't lie or omit details. Teresa needed to know what she was getting into. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. "So," she said finally, "you want my family and me to be your living lesson for your son and daughter-in-law?" I corrected, "for you to have a decent home. And yes, for my family to learn some empathy along the way." Teresa smiled. "Sounds fair. When can we move in?" A week later, on April 1st, the moving truck arrived at 847 Jurist Circuit. I went to supervise. It was my right as a co-owner. Victoria opened the door. Upon seeing me, her face went through 10 different emotions, but she forced a smile. "Eleanor, come in." I corrected her in my head. She had called me by my name. "Thank you," I said. Behind me were Teresa, Michael, and Andrea. The kids looked at the house with wide eyes. "It's huge," Andrea whispered. "It's nice," Michael agreed. Julian appeared from the kitchen. He looked better than he had at the lawyer's office, but he still carried guilt in his eyes. "Mom," he greeted me. Then he looked at Teresa. "You must be Mrs. Campos." "Teresa is fine," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for having us. We didn't have a choice," Victoria muttered so quietly I almost didn't hear it. "Almost." I stared at her. She looked down. "I'm sorry. That was an unnecessary comment. Welcome to the house." I showed them the rooms that were theirs, according to the agreement. A large bedroom for Teresa, a smaller one for Michael. And Andrea would share with Mia, a decision the girls made themselves. "I really get to share with someone?" Mia had said when we proposed it. "I've always wanted a sister." The kitchen, living room, and dining room would be shared spaces. That's where things got interesting. That first night, Teresa made dinner. Chicken enchiladas. The smell filled the house. Victoria came downstairs with a confused look on her face. "What's that smell?" "Dinner," Teresa said cheerfully. "I made extra if you'd like to join us." I could see it on Victoria's face. That look of, "This is my kitchen," of, "I didn't invite you to cook here." But she bit her tongue, because she knew it wasn't just her kitchen anymore. "Thank you," she said with effort. "That sounds delicious." They all ate dinner together. Julian, Victoria, Leo, Mia, Teresa, Michael, and Andrea. A full table of strangers learning to live together. Leo and Michael bonded over video games. Mia and Andrea became inseparable in 30 minutes. Kids don't have the prejudices of adults. But Victoria picked at her food in silence, uncomfortable at her own table. And I, sitting at Carol's house 2 miles away, imagined the scene with a smile. The weeks passed. Julian and I started therapy. The first day was devastating. We both cried for the entire session. "I let her get lost," he told me. "I let our bond break because it was easier to keep the peace with Victoria than to defend you. And I let it happen," I admitted, "because I was afraid of being alone. I was afraid that if I protested, you would kick me out and I'd have nowhere to go." The therapist, Dr. Montero, looked at us with compassion. "Fear makes us allow intolerable things," she said. "But you two still have a chance to rebuild. And slowly, Session by session, we began to do just that. Julian started calling me, not just for house matters or the agreement. He would call to ask how I was, what I had eaten, if I had slept well. Simple things he hadn't done in 3 years. One day, he showed up at Carol's house with flowers. "Just because," he said, "because you're my mom and I love you," I cried, hugging those flowers all afternoon. Meanwhile, at the house, the cohabitation was creating, revealing situations. Teresa told me everything in our weekly calls. Yesterday, Victoria got upset because Michael used too much hot water in his shower, Teresa told me, laughing. I politely reminded her that we pay our rent on time and have a right to hot water. She turned red but didn't say another word. And Julian? Julian is kind. He helps. On Saturday, he played soccer with Michael and Leo in the backyard. I think he's learning. There were beautiful moments, too. Andrea was having trouble with math. Victoria, who was an engineer by training, helped her with her homework without anyone asking. "Thank you, Mrs. Torres," Andrea had said with a smile. And Victoria, Teresa told me, started crying afterward, because for the first time in months, someone had sincerely thanked her for something. The children, of course, were the easy part of this equation. Mia had a new best friend. Leo had an older brother figure who taught him bike tricks. And both of them, in their childhood innocence, were rebuilding bridges the adults had burned. One Sunday, a month after the move-in, Julian invited me to lunch. "At the house," he said. "Teresa is making a pot roast. She says it's your favorite." I hesitated. "Mom," Julian pleaded, "please. The kids miss you. And I need you to see that I'm trying." I went. I entered that house with my heart pounding. I hadn't been there since the night I left. Everything looked the same, but different. There were Andrea's drawings on the fridge, Michael's bike on the porch, voices, laughter, life. "Grandma," Mia ran to hug me. "You came." Leo hugged me too, taller than I remembered. "I missed you, Grandma." Teresa greeted me with a hug. "Come in, Eleanor. Your house, your table." Victoria was in the kitchen. She saw me and nervously wiped her hands on her apron. "Eleanor," she said, "thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me." We looked at each other, two women who had been at war. Two women who were not yet friends, but who were learning to coexist. "The pot roast smells delicious," I said. "Teresa taught me her recipe," Victoria admitted. "It's better than mine." It was the first time I had ever heard her admit that someone did something better than her. We all sat down to eat, 7 people around a table. Michael told a joke. Andrea sang a song she learned in school. Leo showed off his report card. Mia showed me a drawing she made of her new, big family. In the drawing, we were all there. Teresa, her kids, Julian, Victoria, the kids, and me, in the center, with a crown drawn on my head. "You're the Queen Grandma," Mia explained, "because you made everyone be together." I broke down. I cried in front of everyone. Julian took my hand. "Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on us." "Thank you," I whispered, "for finally seeing me again." After lunch, Victoria asked to speak with me alone. We went out to the small backyard, the same one where I used to hang laundry. "Eleanor," she began, her voice trembling, "I know I have no right to ask you for anything. I know I hurt you in unforgivable ways. But I want you to know that I'm in therapy, individual therapy, working on my insecurities, my need for control, everything." "I'm glad to hear that," I said sincerely. "Teresa is teaching me a lot," she continued, "about humility, about gratitude. She lost her husband, she lost her home, and yet she smiles every day, grateful for what she has. And I had everything, and I never stopped complaining." She wiped away a tear. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to let me try to be better, to see that I'm trying." I looked at her. This woman who had made me invisible, who planned to get rid of me, who humiliated me for 3 years. But I also saw a broken woman trying to put herself back together. "Forgiveness," I told her, "is not asked for. It's earned. With actions, with time, with real change. I know. And I am willing to see if you can achieve it." Her face lit up with hope. Really? Really? But Victoria, if you ever treat anyone in that house badly again, if you ever go back to being the cruel person you were to me, this agreement is over. Understood? Understood. 6 months later, in October, things had changed drastically. Julian and I had a rebuilt relationship. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, honest. We saw each other twice a week, talked on the phone. He would ask for my opinion for real, not just out of politeness. Victoria had improved a lot. She was still proud, but she had learned to restrain herself, to be grateful, to share. One day she called me. "Eleanor, could we get coffee, just the two of us?" I agreed, curious. We met at a neutral Starbucks. "I want to offer you something," Victoria said, taking papers out of her bag. "I've been saving, and I spoke to the bank. I can get a loan." She slid the papers toward me. "I want to buy your 60% of the house from you over 5 years, with monthly payments of $2,100. It's all calculated here, with fair interest." I was silent, reading. "Why?" I asked. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said simply. "It's your house, your investment, your sacrifice, and we've been living off your generosity for too long." "I thought you wanted to keep the house for free," I said with an ironic smile. "The Victoria from a year ago did," she admitted. "The Victoria of today wants to earn things, wants to pay what she owes, wants to sleep without guilt." I looked at the numbers. It was a fair offer, very fair. And Teresa and her kids? We offered them to stay on as our official tenants if you agree to sell. With a real contract, fair rent, they accepted. The kids are inseparable. And Teresa has become my friend, my external conscience. I smiled. "Okay," I said. "I accept." Victoria exhaled, relieved. "Thank you for giving me this chance, for not destroying us when you could have. I gain nothing by destroying you, Victoria. I gain by seeing my family heal. Today, 1 year and 3 months after that night, I left with my suitcase. I am sitting in my small rented apartment in my old neighborhood. I am 69 years old. I teach knitting classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the community center. I go to therapy once a month for myself. I go for walks with Carol every morning. Julian comes to visit me every Sunday. Sometimes he brings the kids. Sometimes he comes alone and we cook together like when he was a boy. Victoria sends me texts from time to time. Pictures of the kids, recipes she's tried, small gestures that show she's trying. Teresa and I are close friends. Her kids call me Aunt Eleanor. And the $950 in rent I receive each month, plus the $2,100 from Victoria's payment plan, allow me to live with dignity, with independence, with peace. Did I get my family back? Not completely. Some wounds left permanent scars. But I got something more important back. I got myself back. I got my name back, my voice, my right to be treated with respect. And I learned that sometimes the most important love isn't the one you give. It's the one you give to yourself. Last week, Mia gave me a new drawing. It was me, standing in front of a house, with a suitcase in my hand and a smile on my face. Below, she wrote in uneven letters, "My grandma Eleanor, the bravest woman I know," because she knew when to leave and when to come back. I have it framed in my living room, because that 7-year-old girl understood what many adults never do, that staying where you are hurt is not love, it's habit. And breaking that habit, even though it hurts, even though it's scary, even though it makes you feel selfish, is the most loving act you can do for yourself. Today, I sleep peacefully, in my bed, in my space, in my life. And when I look in the mirror, I finally see what I was looking for 3 years. A visible woman, a valuable woman, a free woman. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm at the park with Leo and Mia. We bought corn ice cream and sat under a tree. "Grandma," says Leo, now 11, and with a voice that's starting to change, "do you regret leaving that night?" "Never," I answer without hesitation. "Not one bit. Not one bit, because leaving saved me. It reminded me who I was before I became invisible." Mia, with ice cream on her nose, asks, "And are you happy now?" I lift her onto my lap, even though she's getting big. Now, I'm happy. Because I'm where I choose to be, not where I'm tolerated. Julian shows up with coffee for me. He sits next to me. The kids asked if we can do this every Sunday, he says. Park, ice cream, time with Grandma. I would love that. My son smiles. That sincere smile I hadn't seen in years. Mom, I know I say it a lot, but thank you for not giving up on us. For teaching us the hardest lesson we needed. You're welcome, son. You know what my therapist told me last week? What? That what you did wasn't revenge. It was restorative justice. Because you made us face the consequences without destroying us. You gave us a chance to change. Your therapist is wise. We stay there, under that tree, watching the children run. And I think of all the women who wrote to me after my Facebook post. The ones who found the courage to leave. The ones who set boundaries. The ones who reclaimed their dignity. And I understand that my story was never just mine. It belonged to all of us. The invisible ones. The exploited ones. The ones who gave everything, hoping for crumbs of respect in return. Because true wealth isn't in what you own. It's in what you don't allow to be taken from you. And I, Eleanor Mendoza, age 69, got my soul back. And no one will ever steal that from me again. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on self-worth, or if you know someone who needs to hear it, leave me a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever had to choose between staying where you were hurt or leaving to save yourself, give this video a like if this story reminded you that it's never too late to reclaim your dignity. And subscribe to the channel, because here we will continue to share real-life stories of brave men and women who chose to respect themselves. Because at the end of the day, the most important lesson is this. Love that doesn't include respect isn't love, it's habit. And habits that hurt you are made to be broken. The end.